It is Sunday night, and this is Rich Lieberman. Well, of course it is. Who else the hell would it be? Would it be Howard Stern now? Uh, Stephen Matthew David? No, an obscure Bay Area reference. See if you can get that. Um, so I'm both very agitated and also very animated and everything else. And I could talk a lot about everything as you discovered Saturday night. And before I get on with what I'm hopefully will be give you as entertaining and informative and a quote kind of opinionated, et cetera, as I embellish you, this is by far I cannot stand this time of the year, right? Because it's like August is depressing enough. And when I was a kid, it was always school. Now they're starting school now. We used to go back to school. God, I'm sounding like my late father. When I was your age, hamburgers were -3 cents. You know that shit. That's right. They used to pay us to eat them. But really, yeah, we'd go back to school after Labor Day. Now it's like early August. I heard and saw back to school ads, and I was like annoying and further depressing. And all of a sudden now, have you seen these Halloween ads? And mind you, they've been running these for a good 2-3 weeks now. Disneyland, which who the fuck is thinking about Halloween right now? I guess some people are. It's like August. They started running these things in early August. Halloween, as if we couldn't be rushed enough. When you get older, time does seem to fly by. And I'm just getting over the 4th of July, right? Summer was like what, about 5 minutes ago? And now we're getting Halloween ads and back. Where's the Christmas ads? And I know they've already got them in the can. They're going to put them out any day now. And pretty soon, it's 2026. Like, can't we have a fucking summer and not have to think about, well, school and Halloween? I love Halloween. Believe me, I know it's a big to do, and now the kids love it. The parents dress up as, you know, whatever they dress up, witches and whatever. It's a big to do. But give us notice around the beginning of the month. It's 31 days in October. But it's anyway, I digress. So, but this month it's depressing. It really is, and all that. So, just something that further irritates me and all that. Okay, few things. Um, you saw the thing about KTVU, and they're really God. And those of you that are outside the Bay Area, this is the station that used to be the gold standard of TV news operations, and they've turned to dreck, complete dreck. And on a Sunday night, you're supposed to be positive. You get the big dinner. I know a lot of the Italians and the Jews. This is our night. We have the big dinner. We used to have the really, really big dinner and go out. Not Saturday, not Friday. Sunday night was family night, right? But nowadays it's Sunday night. But I talked about KTVU. And for those of you that are not aware of KTVU, maybe that's the station that did the Me Too Low, something wrong, that crapola about, God, what has it been now? About 12 years ago. They had these fake Korean names. And somebody kind of who has a quarter brain read it on the air as if they were real legitimate names, not thinking, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right or look right. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of dysfunction at KTVU channel 2. Big deal, you say. Well, this station takes the cake. So there's that. But oh yeah, so I go as I normally do. I have kind of a ritual, right? Especially on Sunday. So I go to this cafe, and it's not like, dreck. It's a decent little cafe. It's on the outskirts of Berkeley and Oakland. It's in that Rockridge area, which is highfalutin and all that. And I get the coffee and I get a little bagel and I'm, sitting around looking and possibly trying to feel who's going to reject me next in the case of women. Another side story. So I'm sitting down and these assholes come in, and I didn't know they would be assholes right away. They pull out of their backpack, which you have to have. That's another thing that irritates me. Their backpack, they pull out the computer and the mouse and shit. And mind you, they go order a $2, whatever it was, soy latte, soy, and they take over. And I look, I'm not Mr. Hardass, but at least if you're going to sit there and use the cafe as your office, which many of them do, have some balls. I mean, order something, get a bagel and a banana in addition to your soy latte, whatever the hell they order. Instead, they take over, they order a cheap drink. They got the headphones on and they got all the shit taking place. And it's just positively annoying, right? And I'm thinking to myself, no wonder these owners, and I'm not talking about Starbucks, although Starbucks, worth billions and billions and billions of dollars, finally said enough is enough. And I'll tell you what, I agree with them. And I normally wouldn't agree with a multi-billion-dollar corporate behemoth like Starbucks. But look, they run a business, not a library. I know I sound like get off my lawn, punk. But this has nothing to do with age. This has nothing to do with bias. This is common sense. You use the place to do your, whatever you're doing, writing, whatever, bookkeeping, work, I don't know, school. You're taking up a spot for, I guess, I would think, people that want to spend some money and not just get a soy latte. Maybe they're going to get a coffee and a bagel and maybe a couple of bananas and fresh. Spend 10, 15, $20. That's called business. And then they take off and they do what they have to do. And now these schmucks walk in. They order a $2, whatever they order, the soy latte. It might be, probably is more. And nothing. They just sit there and do with their stupid earphones and headphones and all that. All right. It's annoying to me. I'm getting older. But even if I were younger, I would bitch and moan about that because to me it's bullshit. But whatever, that's just me. And I know a lot of these companies now have made it mandatory that they will no longer allow said individuals to sit there, use their operations as their home away from home. Good for them. Good for them. Okay. So there's that. What else do we have going on? The news is so depressing. And I'm somebody who's a newsaholic, but there's nothing good. Everything is on the downswing. I tried to be funny, which I largely was on Saturday night. And a lot of you kind of thanked me, which you didn't have to do, folks. There's negativity out there. There's trolls. There's people that have no, what's the word? They're just out to bitch and moan. But these people, that's all they do is bitch and moan and all that. And whatever. It's like news is depressing. We got stuff going on in the country, and I'm not just talking about the politics and all that, which is purely, evil and all that. We've become so absolutely polarized, which has been going on now for years. There's nothing new. But just people are pissed off. Everybody is a Democrat or a Republican, and we're isolated. And I mean, I'm not one that has to be total unity. I think it all depends upon your point of view. But it would be nice if the country had some modicum of togetherness. Ooh, that sounds like a Carpenter's song, Togetherness. So I'm lampooning my own argument, I guess. Okay, I make no sense, but what the hell? Oh, good. We're starting to get a few stragglers into the YouTube chat line. That's our social life these days is YouTube and Facebook. Although I think people have large, and I'm not the only one who's saying this, have basically turned off Facebook unless you're into watching your Aunt Edna's casserole and how it's progressing and all that. It's really for people that have no life. So they go on the computer and they take pictures of Aunt Edna's casserole, and the rest is history and all that kind of a thing. So there's that going on. Sunday night used to be a big TV night. In fact, I think at one time it was the most watched television night of the week was Sunday. That's why you had all the decent shows that they put on Sunday night. So now we've got the football game, and that's on NBC, and that leads everywhere. They got 60 Minutes. Remember that? And the reason why they put 60 Minutes on Sunday night was that it did get ratings. Unfortunately, the people that were attracted to 60 Minutes were like, 78-year-old white guys and old women too. And, which is not a knock against old people at all. I mean, hell, we're all going to get there, hopefully one day. But 60 Minutes now is kind of like if you had a Jewish mother like I did, it's kind of like this. Okay. Sound effects and all that. Okay. I'm still thinking about the schmucks with their laptops who come into the coffee shops and sit there and they're like, and God forbid, something happens to where they got to get the hell out because they've got the headphones and the earphones, and, and they got the $2 drink that they sit there for 4 hours. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's right near there. And they use, and it's not even Starbucks. It's these local shops that ostensibly are trying to run a business, right? So anyway, go figure, as they say. Yes, I did get a haircut, which I have no hair, and I don't want hair. I don't like hair. I'm offended by hair. In fact, if it was my way, I would meet women who were bald themselves. I kind of like that. People say, "Oh, hair is a sign of youth, eternal youth." Oh, bullshit. Who's very, very sexy looking? Okay, I'm talking from a man's standpoint, assuming you like women. You've heard of the Eurythmics, right? Annie Lennox. Oh my God, what a stone cold fox. She's gorgeous. Bitch, me too, me too. Don't talk about women like that. Oh, fuck you. Fuck all of you involved in this. Me too, me too. Well, me too. I think Annie Lennox is hot with her bald head or whatever the hell it is. The Eurythmics. Would I lie to you? No, I wouldn't. Okay, that was a play on words, folks. Those of you that know the Eurythmics, get it. Those of you who don't, well, tough love. Sorry. It's the mood I'm in tonight. Sunday night. Well, I mentioned the fact that it used to be a big night with the Jews and the Italians. We'd go out to dinner. In my case, we always used to go to a place called Spenger's in Berkeley, but not the bullshit, ugly, crappy, filthy, dirty part of Berkeley near the campus. This was down near the water on the east shore of San Francisco Bay, and it was absolute hog heaven, seafood, and they give you the big loaf of bread and the French bread and all the butter. You used to have to wait 2 hours, but oh no, not with my family. Michael, my late brother, rest in peace, used to get us in somehow, some way. That finally dawned on me. He was probably paying off the hostess or whatever. Hey, it worked. But we would go out on Sunday nights, and the Italians' big night was Sunday. You see Goodfellas, the movie, of course, all that stuff. Well, those scenes at the restaurant. Remember the wedding? They had the big wedding with Lorraine Bracco's character and Harold Hill or whatever, Henry Hill. Guarantee you, Sunday, Sunday, big night. It's my favorite day of the week. Now, when I was a kid, I hated it, like we all do, right? End of the weekend, got to go back to school or work on Monday morning. But I'll tell you that it was a big to do. In fact, speaking of media, as I did at the beginning of the broadcast here, I'm talking about the watch shows on Sunday night because they figured a lot of people were home, and that's why they put on 60 Minutes and now NFL football on NBC. Got the big football game and all that. But I remember too that the local TV news, oh, Super Bowl, of course. Yeah, somebody chimed in here with the Super Bowl. Yeah, Super Bowl Sunday. Well, of course, it's a national holiday. It should be that way. But the anchors, and this was not just here, across the nation, across the country, if we were talking about network anchors, you had some decent weekend anchors. Now it's like, complete shitsville. And they put these nobodies on. And that includes in the Bay Area itself. Now I'm comparing the Bay Area with the network anchors. But I'll tell you what, folks, it is like now they have these people that don't belong on the camera. And they're nobodies. I mean, it's ridiculous. But there used to be a time, again, I'm going back to when I was your age, we used to eat marshmallows. Okay. Um, but what was I talking about? Okay, yeah. The anchors. Oh God, is it so shitty and ridiculous and all that. And whatever. I'm just, what do we got here? Don't let's see, don't take any guff from the trolls. Oh fuck. Is that Bruce? Bruce the Moose. Bruce, my problem is I think to myself, everybody says, oh, they're in their basement or they're I take it seriously, and they know that, so they fuck with me even further. And I don't care, what kind of content. I guess I do care because I'm talking about it. But I know, it's like, oh God. And they have, the thing about it is that's their love, that's their adulation. And I guess they go on and somebody told me, hey, be humble, be happy, because if they're trolling you, that means that you're doing something in high esteem and all that. And I guess, which by the way, the Sunday night or Saturday night thing, I just did that as kind of a, play and start talking about certain things and broadcast extemporaneously, stream of consciousness and all that. So, whatever. If I did what I did and all that, because you know what, if you talk about issues and this, that, and the other, which I did, but if you get too concentrated on certain things and people get all, you know, Lollapalooza and all that, sanctimonious and all that, I mean, everybody gets all holier than thou, man, right? Like I mentioned, Bill Maher. And I also said this, look, Bill Maher is very successful, although he's like a complete walking contradiction with his booze and his marijuana, which we have to hear every day that he's on. He's on 8 million different sites now, including the HBO show. But he gets a little bit more, shall we say, modeling with his cocktails and he's drinking. And, ooh, he's so radical. He wants us to believe that he's, and he smokes dope. How do I know that? Because he says it every fucking day and 15 references. Okay, so you smoke dope. Great. You have to mention it, Bill. And he's got great writers, folks. Okay. It's not a knock on him. Again, very successful guy, has that wise guy sort of shtick. It works, I guess, for the most part. But, the dope, I'm not anti dope. You could do whatever the hell you want. Fuck, you can, if you want to take heroin and crack and all that within the confines of your own home, in my book, do what you want to do. But now he's got the show with the booze, and he's smoking marijuana, and like, oh, he's so cosmopolitan, is Bill Maher. All right, enough about that. And I'm not I'm not anti Bill Maher. I think he's funny, courtesy of the writers. A lot of those quips that you see, by the way, if you watch that show, those are written. Okay. And he does a few, you know, engrossing moments where he ad libs, but most of that, folks, those are all written for him. He's got great writers, as he should. They make a lot of money. They work for HBO, and HBO pays. So just put that in your cranial for a minute. What do we got here? Let's see. Hello from the internet. Oh, that's Pamela. Pam, hi. Is that Pamela Cole or Colwell? Colwell. Hi, Pamela. Bruce, the Moose, Pamela, whoever, wherever you are. If you're new, great. If you're not, welcome to the show and all that. Why do I talk like this? I'm getting to be an old Kvetch. I really am. But, whatever. It is what it is. There's another phrase I can't stand. Everybody's overusing that now, too. It is what it is. Even a cliche is getting headlines and all that. So anyway, back to what I did on Saturday night. Look, I couldn't believe it. When I was done, I looked and it said an hour and 48 minutes. I go, oh my God. That's like even, Stern doesn't do that lengthy of his diatribes and all that. But he does in a way, right? That's what makes him so special, even in these days when he's getting ripped and pulled apart and, all these people that are annoyed at him and all that. I guess some of the workers. Anyway, read up on it. It's interesting, though, I think. So, and by the way, somebody asked me what do you think's going to go on with Stern in his sunset years. Look, he's only 71, which is not old, right? It's not young, but it's not old. I said he might go into the movies. He made that movie. Remember that? What was it, like about 30 years ago, Private Parts? It was his first movie. He directed it. He starred in it. He wrote it. Yeah, it was a good movie. It wasn't a great movie, but I'd give it a solid B. Funny. It made a lot of money, obviously. So, I don't think he's going to go out like this, but that's just my opinion if you want to note it or something or another. So where did Pamela and Bruce the Moose. So that's what we got. When I started out last night, there was like 2 people, and then it grew to over 100, and I'm like, oh my God. So those of you that are out there that are thinking to chime in, please do. And one sec, I'm going to take a break here for a second. And if you're watching live on YouTube, Rich needs water. Hold on, don't go anywhere. I'm not going to stop it. We're going to go over and get the water, because without water, you have a lot of bad things taking place. So I'm going to kvetch and do this. This is live interactive television. So if you want to interact with me or watch me fetch the water, here I am. And ladies, do I look good? You like the new outfit? Can't believe I'm doing this, but what the hell? All right, water time. That helps. I think I read the other day, water is the most thirst quenching liquid that you can drink. And it's true, it is, and all that. So, if I was an airplane, I could fly Southwest. See these things? Oh my God, they're big. I know. But I remember once a Chinese woman told me, you have the ears, that means you're going to live long, which is, I don't know. I see these people, some of them are like in their 90s now, they're still living. And, my mother, knock on whatever this is, metal, God bless you, Mom, rest in peace again. She lived to be 95, and she was, folks, till the very, very end. She was so lucid. I mean, a couple months we had to do things, and she would have said, Richie, get me the hell out of here, because it was right before, about a year and a half before, the pandemic, right? Which you couldn't kiss elderly people. Remember that? But some people, I guess it's genes, they're quite remarkable, right? And then in my mom's case, it was like she took vitamins and she did this and that and all that. And at the end, it's a little rough. And I get emotional, so I'm gonna be careful here. Otherwise, I might my friend, one of the few friends I have, you cry too much. Well, sorry, that's just me. You know, I'm not. Who's the guy that used to cry all the time? Was it Alan Alda? No, somebody like Alan Alda. Help me out. Three people in the room. Is that Pamela and Bruce? Uh, let's see. Bruce is in Wisconsin. Casserole is called hot dish. Very good. Just sounds shitty, right? Casserole. I remember a lot of people used to have the bean cat, or what is it? Lima bean casserole. Oh my God. That just sounds like that should food that should be coming out of you, not going into you, right? What was I saying? What was I talking about? Oh yeah, people in their 90s. Yeah, some I mean it's extraordinary. They act I mean, they're not jumping over hurdles and competing in the Olympics, but they're very lucid, they're very sharp, and they, take life and God bless them and all that. They have, but there's some. It's kind of like a dilemma. You say you want to live forever and all that. Well, nobody wants to, right? Unless there was some invention where you didn't, sound like a kvetching son of a bitch, like this shit, and you're drooling and all that. So it depends. I mean, we all love life, right? Until we don't love life and all that. What the hell am I talking about? I have no idea. I sound, like I said, I'm pissed off, but not royally pissed off. But I hate this time of the year, which I talked about. It's depressing. It's that's Woody Allen movies. Remember, they used to come out. A lot of them came out in August because he talked about this too. A lot of people were depressed in August, and yet that's also the most voluminous amount of people on vacation is August. And then they come back and they're all pissed off and they're tired and all that. And they got to go back to work and they got to think about the impending fall and September and all that. And, I mentioned earlier about the Halloween ads already and the back to school shit drives me fucking crazy. And they're all in businesses. You know what? They all want to make money. They're not, it's like Disneyland running the Halloween ads. Yeah, I mean, I've been to Disneyland for years and years and years, and they say if you're a single guy, you go to like Disneyland or for that matter, any kind of amusement park, if you're alone, and you might as well just be careful. And it's not a good vibe. I think they think you're like some kind of a social Neanderthal and all that. So I don't know if I'd want to go to Disneyland in this. I'd be really royally depressed. I've been on most of the rides, the Matterhorn and all that, and the teacup thing and all that, Mr. Lincoln. I'll tell you what, though, it's going to sound funny. Ha ha, funny. I used to love when we went to Disneyland. That's when I had a family. We'd go to the food, right? They had the best corn dogs, right? They were like $500,000 or something like that. They were expensive. I mean, like now it's got to be hamburgers. What is it, like $12? But all the food at Disneyland is fucking superb, And it's funny because not funny. What'd you pay now? You pay like what, $150, $200 to get into Disneyland? I think they have discount coupons. But you'd go in there, pay all this money, take your family on the rides and walk around, but you'd stop and have lunch, right? And you'd get the cheeseburger or the corn dog, or they got the ice cream with the chocolate coating on the outside. It was like, you put on 15,000 pounds and it cost you like $15,000 or something like that. But they had the best corn dogs and the best cheeseburgers, right? And all the shitty food that you never eat when you're outside of Disneyland. Taffy and what's the shit? Um, what's the shit? The fuzzy pink stuff that you get at baseball games. Cotton candy, is that what it is? Yeah. Which I never, even as a kid, I hated. God, I mean, I want to stuff shit like that in my mouth that tastes like lint that I left on my jacket that I took to the cleaners and all that. I'm going to put it in my mouth and ooh, it's tasty and it's pink and it's sweet. Ooh, God knows what the fuck they put in cotton candy. I never liked it as a kid. Corn dogs, on the other hand, oh my God. And now the only way you get good corn dogs, if you're into that, is you got to go to a county fair. Like they sell them at these, like, what are these 24-hour mini marts at the gas stations, right? And they taste like shit. That's why they cost 89 cents or whatever the fuck they charge. But I'm all over the spectrum. I know food. I haven't talked about sex yet, but I will. Because maybe with that garlic chicken, oh, this is Julia Child. Did you like that? I got so much response by my Julia Child impression. Nothing on Emerald. Bam! I mentioned the fact that Emerald Lagasse had on Julia Child, who reminded me of my mom without the, oh, this is Julia Child, and I'm going to make a lovely paprika chicken or hot dogs with corn on them, kind of a thing. My mom, that's why I get really emotional. And my mom, same dress, same, when you get older, they have that kind of the old lady kind of aura and all that. But I used to love watching that show. By the way, do any of you like me? You won't admit this publicly. Do you watch those kitchen shows or the chef shows or the infomercials where they're making, meatloaf and pancakes and chicken? They put it in the gadget that can cook and boil, and for all I know, you can have an affair with it if you're a guy or a woman, and all this shit, and 5 easy payments, right? Of what is it, $59.99? If you act now, we'll make the payment for you. Okay, I love those shows because they could be really entertaining and downright hysterical. Especially the ones where they show the audience and they show the women and the guys too, but mostly the women. And you could boil your meat too. You don't need to put it in the boiler. And they show the audience. And they clap. And they go, So I got a lot of reaction to my Julia Child. I also, which I find, look, now we're getting a big crowd in the room. The room is starting to fill up. Ladies and gentlemen, you may sit at any seat. This is an open house tonight, unless it says reserved. You cannot sit there unless you hand me $50. I'm doing an impression of any maitre d' at a comedy club. But, oh yeah, the Keith Morrison. And those of you who don't know Keith Morrison, he is the goofy, well, he's not goofy, but he does the stories that, the killers that chopped their mother in half or that they killed their whatever, the postman, and they're really gory. And Keith Morrison has that kind of aura about him that the more morbid it gets, the more interested he is, and he kind of has these mannerisms. And I did my Keith Morrison. So those of you who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, or those of you who do, Saved by the Bell. Shit, it's my lifelines. Okay, sound effects from Rich. Yeah, I did Keith Morrison from Dateline NBC. So I'll just make it up off the top of my head, and we'll get a reaction one way or the other. So it'd be like Keith Morrison would be talking about some guy, and they were usually guys that looked like they were from Iowa or Mississippi, who didn't go to college, surprise, and did something really, really sordid. Like, this is Bobby S. I met Bobby at the state penitentiary in beautiful Louisiana. Bobby had a rough day and took it out on his Aunt Edna. Bobby went and got a pitchfork and hit her in the head and stabbed her in the eyes. Mm, mm. I went up to Bobby and I had a jailhouse interview with him, and I asked Bobby what made him do it. What made him do what he did to his lovely Aunt Edna? And he said the following. Well, Keith, I was just having a bad day and I didn't like Aunt Edna and she kind of just pissed me off. So I overreacted and I suppose I didn't have to stab her in the eyes and maybe, take out her stomach with my pliers. You put pliers on your Aunt Edna and she was probably dead. Mm, mm. But you didn't stop there, huh, Jimmy Ash? No, Keith, I went and got my big machete and I chopped her in half. It was kind of cool. You chopped her in half? That's a body that you chopped in half. Your own aunt? Yeah. Mm. Anyway, that's Keith Morrison. I know. Look. I'm making fun, folks. It's called satire. But how many in the room now? The room is starting to fill up again. We got Bruce the Moose. We've got all these people. Who raise your hands if you're a Keith Morrison fan? It puts me downright silly. Excuse me, water break. Anyway, Keith Morrison. I think there's like subterranean groups out there that think the guy is hysterical. I mean, he's been on, Bill Hader does impressions of him, and I think Bill Hader did something with him and all that. In his HBO show and all that kind of a thing. So, Billy didn't stop there. He chopped his aunt in half. Oh, and he went back to work, and they caught him. You chopped her. What else did you do? Well, I cut her toes off and put them in my popsicles that I make, Keith. You put it in the chopped the toes off, and you put it in the popsicles? Yeah. Okay. See, my enjoyment is your enjoyment. There's people applauding. Thank you very much for my Keith Morrison. That was, remember the other guy for Dateline? He would do the really scared men or the weird, fucked up men that would go after what happened to him? What was the guy's name? Somebody will help me here. He just disappeared. And oh God, those things were the guy that was it Hanson, something like that. Somebody will help me out here. And we all watched it because we saw these guys. And by the way, they did look the proverbial, oh, that guy's a perv kind of a thing, right? So, and then they catch the guy, and life's over. Guilty. We have tape. So anyway, somebody's gonna. Is it Chris Hansen or is Christopher? Who? Oh, yeah, Chris Hudson Hansen. That from Bruce the Moose. I think it's Chris Hansen. And all of a sudden, he became Jimmy Hoffa. Nobody knows where he is. All that stuff. He's gone, right? Speaking of Jimmy Hoffa, God, do you know it was like 50 years ago, the whole Hoffa thing in Detroit? Remember, he was in Dearborn and he disappeared. And then, all the jokes aside, where, they said somebody's buried with Jimmy Hoffa under a freeway ramp, in Jersey or something like that. And I looked, and it was July 30th of 1975 when that happened. And they still haven't found the body. And, they're not going to find it. They're going to find remains, right? So, but that was, God, scary, folks. 50 years ago, 1975. And I'm talking about time and, all that shit. And those of you that are not anywhere near, 50s or 60s or maybe in your 40s and all that, enjoy it now, folks, because it's, well, for me, it's like a progressive downhill. Oh, also, somebody was giving me shit last night because they thought I was openly proselytizing, asking for like women to call me. And I did have a few who called me. One of them said that they'd like to do a Keith Morrison on me. And I was like, hi, Rich. I'm Edna in suburban Miami. and I'd like to come over and maybe take a plane and like cut your testicles off. Would that be okay? Testicles off? Mm, yeah. No, but something like that. So, look, a lot of women find this sexy. They do. And the more morbid, the more compelling for them. I don't know. At this point, folks and women, I'm at a stage now where and by the way, it's not like look at these women who send condemned inmates, like they send them nude photos and, like the freeway killer out here, and the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, who, I mean, I don't get it. I know there's like whole articles and books and all that about these women who have this kind of, I don't know if it's a fetish, but like they're in prison and they're not going anywhere. And these are like beautiful women who write these guys letters like, "What are you doing Saturday night? Or do you have any plans for Thursday?" Well, as a matter of fact, I'm free. I'm free. Not where your house is, but come on by. I'll buy you a drink. I'll get you some ginger ale here at the penitentiary. So I still don't get that. Like maybe it's a fetish where they know the guy is, he's going to be gentle, he probably chopped up somebody or killed somebody or did whatever he did to, spend the eternal time in prison. But I just never associated that with women who send letters. And by the way, not just letters, but photos, and, I'm nude and I love you. Night Stalker, you can stalk me anytime because I think you're kind of cute. It's like the guy. Now, this guy's different. He's not in prison yet, but he will be probably. The guy in New York that killed the United Healthcare executive, and all of a sudden he's getting, the hunk, and the women. It's largely women. I imagine there are a few guys too, but women who thought, what was his name? Sergio Mangione, something like that. Not Sergio, something Pablo or whatever. His last name was Mangione. Oh, he's a hunk. He's so hot. I mean, I'm laughing because it's just only in America, right? Only in the US of he's a hunk. And you know what? If this guy were to get off and, God knows, temporary insanity, that kind of a thing, he could. It would be out of the question. He could probably, well, he already has. He's attracted all these women and, like I said, a few guys, but excuse me as I choke. Keith Morrison choking. Excuse me while. Oh, God. Did you see that? What? But that's good. Well, fortunately, there's only a little bit left. I'm going to have to pour the other water in now. That's karma from God telling me, don't talk about that shit. It's morbid. Okay, so. Did you see that? I spilled water. Oh, shit. Right, watch this, folks. What do I need? Medication, huh? No, I do. It's all right. It's just water. And it was a little bit, and it didn't go. Really shitty luck. It would have gone on the computer. And sparks were flying and that kind of thing. But you saw it. Live interactive television on YouTube with Rich spilling water. But why cry over that? At least it's not milk. And it would have fucked up the keyboards and all that kind of a thing. All right, back to what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, the Mangione character. But I mean, and the other way around, you never see that. Like women that are convicted of some horrible crimes, right? Like they killed their kids. Or, you don't see, men get a lot of shit from women because usually the killers and all the people that do crazy things are men, which they are. It's not an opinion; it's factual. But men don't send, I don't think, condemned women, letters and shit. They just kind of accept the fact that, okay, if they're kind of tawdry looking or whatever, they don't think of, you know what, I'm going to send Jane a letter and send her a naked picture. It just doesn't enter the equation. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody's going to find something, but women, and not all of you, I know, But there are women. I heard him interview. They said, well, what he did was terrible. Getting text right now, probably somebody condemned. But I just found it kind of odd. And by the way, those of you who want to those who want to interact with me, and hey, Rich, we saw you spill the water. You're a human being. All right. My text and my interactive gizmo is my iPhone, which is 415-999-4454, 415-999-4454. And I do respond to all texts and all emails, which is rich.lieberman, Lieberman. Boy, this room is filling up fast now. rich.lieberman@gmail.com. Now, I said yesterday that I was going to do a show this morning, my time, 10 o'clock Pacific time. I didn't get around to doing it because the funds were not there that I had said, hey, we got to sponsor the program, folks, because, so just to let you know. But I ended up doing a show anyway, and I'm pretty much on the air. These kind of shows are sporadic. And what I said yesterday, it makes sense, and people agreed with me. And if you don't agree with me, I'd like to hear from you. If you do agree with me, and if you're a woman who has vision and is not, being, tortured and, whatever, I am available. I'm expensive, but I am available. And I've been around the block many a times and usually was thrown out by the local authorities, if not the women themselves, who kind of looked at me and they go, story of my life. So, and as I said also yesterday, and I may have used a different character, I'm kind of a combination between Anderson Cooper, although I am heterosexual. I hear they're making a comeback. But Anderson Cooper has about 15 people watching him, but he makes $12 million a year, which I don't get. And I think it is the fact that women love him, which they do, because he's safe. He's got that look, the glasses. He's got the here's my Anderson Cooper. Hi, I'm Anderson Cooper. We're live in Idaho at the scene of the murders of the 4 college students. Tonight, I'm talking to the victims and their families. I will show sensitivity. I will do this when it's appropriate. So Middle America will get the fact that 4 students were killed by this lone assailant in Idaho. And I will try to make sense of it by talking to the victims' families. I will also show concern, nod my head, do this and that, and attract more than the 12 people that I usually attract. And CNN, Time Warner will pay me $12 million a year to do this because I am a concerned gay man who has relatives in Manhattan where I like to get a cocktail when I'm done at CNN and put on my Sperry topsiders and put on my snitcher shoes that have the white edges along with the black and wear a suit with an open collar without the tie. And people come up to me from Iowa and want to take their picture with me. I'm Anderson Cooper. Next week, I'll be in Beirut in the middle of a Hamas showdown with the Israelis. And I'll have my cameraman with me. And I'll continue to talk like this with no emotion whatsoever. But I'll do this a lot. And by the way, I'm making fun of Anderson Cooper. I like Anderson Cooper. And I'm a heterosexual man, again, which doesn't mean anything. I like him. But they're paying this guy $12 million a year. Good for him. His mother would be very, very proud. Gloria, whatever, I forgot her name. And yet he has no ratings. And he's on 60 Minutes. And it's like, okay, Anderson Cooper. All right. Hopefully I won't spill the water. Those of you that missed the water, it'll be replayed later. Along with the Keith, somebody do another Keith Morrison impression. Okay. For you and your eyes only. Bobby Smith was an ordinary plumber working in Manhattan, Kansas. Didn't have a criminal record. Was a complete citizen of the year in Manhattan, Kansas. Until one night when he got angry. He confronted his wife. Said, why did you take the muffins out of my lunch pail? The wife said, I don't know. It's just what I do, honey. To which then he went and got a pair of scissors and stabbed his wife in the eyes, then shot her and chopped her up. Yeah. Okay, Keith Morrison. Enough of that. Okay. Do you like that? Everybody's like, again, folks, satire. It's satire. Okay. I'm sure Keith is a cool person. Yeah. Okay. What was I talking? Oh, yeah. So the women that have fetishes and longings for condemned men in prison. So I still don't get that. Boy, this room is filling up. What do you guys want? I'm asking for like reviews now, or reviews. Rich, you suck. You always have. We're just kind of supporting you because we have nothing better to do on a Sunday night. Let's see here. So we've got Bruce the Moose, stand up and be counted. We've got Pamela. Let's see. Oh yeah, Pamela, my future ex-wife. Who else do we have? I got to get these on. Something Thrifter, South Florida Thrifter, or is that Drifter? Whatever. So we have South. Okay, let's see here. Oy vey, only here to hear Rich Kvetch. What do you want me to say? Kvetch. That's, by the way, that is a Yiddish word. Those of you who are Goyim, it is the perfect Jew word. And I'm a Jew. Let me feel. Yes, I'm still Jewish. And whatever. And we use that term a lot. Kvetch and that kind of a thing. And I know a lot of you Goyim, like, oh, those damn Jews, they own the banks no, I'm just kidding. And all that shit. You know what? Where did that come from, too? We own the banks. Well, they used to say, too, this is the thing that really makes me laugh. Those damn Jews, they run the neighborhoods. For people that we picked a fucking shitty neighborhood to grow up in our, Israel, about the size of this. And, we couldn't have picked, like, I don't know, Alaska or, below Mexico. We had to pick. Okay. So next time you hear the Jews are good with real estate and all that, think about this. Not with Israel and all that. Oh, they're kicking their ass and all that. So whatever. Oh, Rich goes political again. You never know. No wonder he's spilling water. So what else do we want to talk about? Look, if you want to call me, God knows you just can't wait. I'm going to try to be interactive, but if you want to text, I know a lot of you like texting. 415-999-445. Why am I talking like 4454? What am I like? Again, Lou Ferrigno. 444. It's a Lou Ferrigno line, folks. Look it up if you're not familiar with Lou Ferrigno. Okay. Do you like the stripes today? I kind of did the little blue, kind of the blue thing. And I don't know. I think I look very sexy and very hot. And look, I want women who are in the room, to comment. Like if I was like the last man on the island and you were, stuck on the proverbial island and you had no other, male genitalia, would you be open to, you put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, you go to Rich and you shake it all around. You do okay. So what would you consider this? I mean, you like the glasses, the ears, the half-shaven Pierce Brosnan wannabe kind of, kind of a thing with the I'm Yul Brynner. What if Yul Brynner had a miscarriage and suddenly became Richard Nixon? I am not a crook. I never was a crook. In fact, if you compared me to the current president today, I think you'd want me back in. So I covered up Watergate. Who the gives shit? Nobody cares about Watergate. I was there for you and I protected all of you because I loved you people. I was never a crook. Okay. It's my Dick Nixon. You like that? Oh, people are applauding. Okay. Nobody, and I do mean nobody, could do Anderson Cooper, Keith Morrison, Yul Brynner, and Dick Nixon. Am I right? Do we have people to comment on my? Let's see here. Let's see. Who's that? Deanna, and all you women out there. Now, look, if you've been divorced, if you're mentally sort of, I don't know, awkward, disturbed, maybe you had problems with men in your life. I'm assuming most of you were, married. You couldn't be, with a woman because I know all about that. In fact, people ask me about lesbians, and I mention the word lesbians a lot because I have met heterosexual women that I've gone on dates with. And after the date, the next day they became lesbians. That's a true story. So that's just, my life. But anyway, yeah, if you have had issues with men, I am like a woman in that regard because most men don't get it. And these are men who, they have the job and they go to work and they flash their iPhones and guy got like a 11 series BMW and, they're supposed to be all sexy and all that. What men don't get, and I know this as your sex therapist, is that women, right? Women will agree with me on this. I pretty much think this will be the case. Women could get sex anytime. Men don't get that. They think that, that women are, they just don't get the fact that women can get sex anytime. Like a women regard sex as eating like a fucking donut in the morning, whereas men are like this. Look, guys, let me just tell you this. And even if those of you that are married, okay, if you want sex, get the money out. I'm not just talking about hookers either. Show them that you have cash. I'm not putting them down. We're in a capitalist society. And therefore, they really don't want to have sex. They don't even want to have sex if, unless they got the proverbial rewards. And in that case, it's show me the money, show me, And I'm a Jewish guy, and I've gone on dates. A lot of them were Jewish and all that. And I could go into, the histrionics there. But look, it's all about the money, okay? Because women don't need to have sex. When they want to have sex, they can make a call or they can do this or that, which they don't normally do because you guys are very annoying. I'm not saying that to be a wuss and like, oh, you're just kowtowing to the women. No, I'm not. Ladies, am I right that women can get sex anytime? And look, unless you look like Brad Pitt, which I do, right? You're basically going to be like a guy in San Leandro, California after about 2 beers. You're going to be horny. You're going to be going home and watching Keith Morrison, and that's about it. There's not going to be any, sex or unless you call phone sex or you do Kitty, what was her name? Kitty Harris. Kitty, who was the Kitty that was from Gunsmoke? She's still alive and she's doing porn. Kitty Evans or something like that. Kitty Carlisle, but I think she died. It'll be somebody will know. But you'll go on, Pornhub, which by the way, oh my God. Yeah, very realistic. Pornhub. I was walking down the street in my miniskirt and heels in the middle of the Mojave Desert, and along came Bruce in his pickup truck with no teeth, a beard, and he kind of looked at me and said, "Hey, baby, want to come in and touch me?" Ooh. I immediately gravitated towards Bruce and said, "Sure, rip my clothes off and merge with me." Very unrealistic. But yet, you guys resonate with Pornhub and all that. I've looked at it because I was doing a documentary, right? So I needed to do research. Rich was doing research. No, okay. Enough of the Keith Morrison. What do we got here? Yeah, it's really easy. LOL. South Florida thrifter. What else we have? Deanna, what is that? Auto Bird. Yeah, by the way, these some of these emojis, and these are people who put pictures up. And usually, if you're basically unattractive, they use fake photos. I'm not just saying it's women, men too, except for me. Look at me. No, it wasn't Kitty Carlisle. I already said that. She's been dead for years and years. She wasn't that attractive. Excuse me. What else we got? Bruce the Moose. We already seen you. So what do we have? We have mostly all these people. Do you guys want me to stay on? You want me to stay? I need some, even though there's like I think 4 or 5 people. That's all. But you're getting into this. What is this? This is South Florida again. Thrifter. My no loose pickup line in my 20s was, damn, I'm corny. LOL. Okay. Was that your pickup line? So that's a guy. Okay. So the South Florida thrifter is a guy. My pickup line is, don't scream. But anyway, what else? What else was I talking about? Do you guys want me to stay here, or do you want me to go get some more water that I can spill on myself and my computer and really fuck up my life and that kind of a thing? Deanna, the snowbird, ha ha ha. Let's see what else. Amanda Blake. No, God, she's hot. It's very hot. And the women will agree with the women. There's 2 women in here. Mila Kunis. Sophie, is it Vergara or Vergara? It's Vergara. Sophie Vergara. And of course, yeah. What's her name? She was in Hitch. Eva Mendes. Oh my God. Eva, if you're out there, I know. Eva Mendes secretly watching Rich by herself in her Manhattan apartment. Right. Well, those of you that know Eva or have close confidence, memo to Eva Mendes: watch Rich. He mentioned you, but not in this context. Let's see here. My new. Okay, yeah, I'm ready with the corny. Let's see. Deanna. Okay, so we have the same people. So what do you guys want me to do? Should I come back, get some more water, and come back? You want me to stay on? I'm talking to various, like 4 people or something, maybe more. No, we love you, Rich. See ya soon. You throwing me out already? Okay, I'm going to stay on just to annoy you for a while. Maybe I'll come back later. I'll take a break. I'll tell you what time is it now? It's my time. 7, a little after 7 Pacific time. I'm just here for the party. You kidding? Oh, okay. Deanna, we love you, Rich. Oh, that was the other guy. But Deanna, I want you to get in touch with me. I want to propose to you not propose, but I want to talk to you about possible futures and the stock market and things like that. No. Cheap son of a bitch, huh? Okay. I will take a break. I will be back and we'll do like after dark humor, interaction, tell your friends, your enemies, your chiropractor, your colonoscopy professor, all these people that Rich will be back. Again, text me 415-999-44. Hey, Rich's sex life. 44, that's an old one. Don't even react. 4454. You want to email me, rich.lieberman, rich.lieberman @gmail.com. What else? I'm on Twitter at rich415 media. I can't think of anything else. All right. Could you guys, do you think you'd be, maybe I'll come back and I'll tell you what. Go on Twitter if you have no excuse or what have you. And I will put out a notice on Twitter whether or not I will be back. For some reason, Saturday night was, I mean, this is crowded right now. And look at these people. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Gloria Vanderbilt. Thank you, Bruce. That was Anderson Cooper's mom. Was better than the 40 years wandering in the. That's, again, that's Deanna. So yeah, I'll be back. I need about an hour to kind of look through my life and look at the depressing letters that I wrote to myself and so forth. But I do need a break and I need water. Hopefully that I will not spill. And we will go from there. All right, we'll see you in about an hour. Look for me on Twitter. I'll give you the exact time when I'm on. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon. Thanks.